So, a vegan video so fast since the last one, but sometimes there are things that inspire me to talk about this issue. I was just on Instagram and I saw Annie Lennox. She started off talking about being Scots, and then she went into talking about how she saw a stat on her computer that said that 60% of greenhouse gases are from meat, from eating meat. Well, that's not really true. It's not that much, but we're probably going around 51%. And you've probably seen by now, if you've been on this channel, the post I make about the largest study to date, and I'll put up a meme in the side there for you to check it out.
For a long time now, I have decided to kind of avoid eating meat. And the reason, well, there are many reasons for that, but one of them being that I actually think it is one thing that we can all do to mitigate the consequences of climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. Because I've just noticed, I've got my laptop here and it says, stat of the day. Stat of the day. Meat accounts for nearly 60% of all greenhouse gas emissions from food production. So that really could be a solution, obviously, if people started to move away from meat consumption. It would be part of the improvement, at least, towards making a significant change in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Even if you just wanted to do that, just to make that little change individually, collectively, if millions of people decided to stop eating meat, it could make a significant difference. Anyway, I'm just thinking about what would be possible to make a difference. And I think, apart from even the cruelty of it, which I find now, I find it kind of deplorable, really. Having been brought up on farms, and I really do understand how difficult it is to be a farmer and to be sustainable, and it's very complex, very complex. I don't want to be sort of down on people that eat meat. I don't appreciate that, and I certainly don't wave I am vegetarian banner around myself, because I don't like that label, but I just felt that I had to stop eating meat.
As nice as it is to see people advocating for some sort of end to animal use, vegetarianism is really not what you would consider something to advocate for, unfortunately. If Annie Lennox really thinks about it, there's so many other forms of animal use, and I really would have thought by now she would have realized that being vegan is the way to go. Because, look at dairy cows. They also are there's a huge, number of dairy cows on the planet, and they're all contributing greatly to the greenhouse gas emissions. They're also destroying the land. There's land shortages because of it. There's water shortages and so forth. And this isn't even talking about the tremendous violence involved in animal exploitation, which is something that I wish people would start off with, talking about that. But it's sad. It's like, why can't people just come out and say what's wrong with it? What's wrong with animal use? What is wrong with using sentient beings that way, taking their children from them, artificially inseminating them, doing all sorts of torturous things to them so that they are more production efficient and all that kind of thing, feeding them millions and millions and millions of tons of antibiotics every year. There's so many things that we do to them. That's just a small fraction. Cutting off their beaks, cutting off their genitals. These are sentient beings. I don't know why people don't start off with that first. That what we're doing to sentient beings is just appalling. And then go from there. It's like, it's like sort of talking about a human rights issue and talking about the environmental impact that human rights issue presents to us. Instead of saying we are abusing human rights, people are being tortured and killed, and why not? That's the way we usually talk about humans. But for some reason, it's verboten and it makes people too uncomfortable, and therefore this is when these people bring this up. They'd rather not say what needs to be said. Speak about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. And vegetarianism is really nowhere. It's just like non-veganism, because we're still eating other animal products that are a result of tremendous violence: dairy, eggs, and there's fish. People don't even think of fish, but we're destroying the oceans because of the tremendous amount of fishing that's going on, huge trawlers and so forth. And we're responsible for that. So, but something that just always gets me is when I see people bring this up, and and they talk about cruelty as if it weren't cruel, then it'd be okay. It'd be morally justifiable to use animals because it's not cruel. Does she know anything about... Now, I really like Annie Lennox, except there's some things I'm going to say about her at the end, about her positions about human rights issues too. But, I like her, and there are other people who seem like they're nice people who talk about these issues, but they always leave out the most important thing, is that we don't have the right to use sentient beings as resources. Just like we don't have the right to use humans as resources, as property, treating them like slaves. We don't have the right to do that to non-human animals. And the only place that it's okay is in our heads, because we've been indoctrinated that it's okay to do that, because they're other, because they're not our species. Well, that's BS. Sentience is all that matters. So the vegetarianism, that is not the way to go about it. It's not baby steps. It's not meat-free Mondays. It's not fish-free Fridays. It's not Veganuary and all those different gimmicks that don't really address things head-on. And that is the elephant in the room, which we're all pretending is over there somewhere and not important, and we don't want to think about it, and we don't want to see it. Heaven forbid we should see what goes on in a slaughterhouse or in those industrialized farms, and even in the free-range farms. We don't realize it, but these free-range farms are nonsense. They're just big industrialized scams that people think they're actually, the animals are humanely used. But they're hideous. There's animals dying all over the place. They still have their children taken from them. They're still tortured. They're still killed in the end when they're not productive. Their children are taken from them. It's still the whole thing. It's not about cruelty. It's about use. It's about the fact that we use them at all. That is the problem, that we use them at all, not how we use them. So this whole cruelty thing, that should not be part of the discourse. Because there's no such thing as non-abusive use of animals. No such thing. If you've got very low standards about what you consider abuse, like if you've got a high bar for what you consider abusive and not abusive, then I guess you might think that's fine. If these different practices that we do normally to non-human animals on these farms, industrialized farms and free range and organic dairy and all of that, if they were applied to humans, it would be seen as torture. That's a fact. There is no such thing as non-abusive use of animals. Okay, so we've dealt with that bit just briefly, and so Annie Lennox is saying, the cruelty thing. Well, everything is cruel. It's all wrong. It's all morally wrong. And she's sort of apologetic at the end. I don't want to make people feel bad about eating meat. And this whole meat thing again, as if these other products aren't as problematic. I don't want to wave the vegetarian banner. Why do people have to be so apologetic about something that is so important? I mean, really, why do people have to be so apologetic about saying something that is needed to be said, about the obvious thing that a lot of us who are not vegan, we know there's something really wrong with it there. We just don't really want to think about it, and we just don't really want to address it. We really don't. Because who's going to make us address it, really? Are animals going to make us stop using them? No. They're completely vulnerable. And so it's up to human beings. That's why people talk about veganism in public. You know how there's these jokes about how do you know someone's vegan? They can't stop talking about it, or something like that. You know, these sort of smeary kind of sarcastic things. The reason vegans talk about it is because non-human animals can't, can they? Non-human animals cannot stop us from doing to them what we do. They can try. Have you seen a mother cow trying to stop the farmer from taking her calves away? It is really, really distressing and incredibly sad. And unfortunately, she can't stop them. She can't stop farmers from doing that. And that is done every day of every year, year after year after year. Billions of mother cows trying to stop farmers from taking their children, either to kill them because they're no use to the industry, because they're male, like in the dairy industry. That's where the veal industry is. Male calves are taken away at a few days old and killed. They're still sucking on the farmer's finger as they're dragged across the killing floor. Billions of male calves are killed every year that way because they're no use to the industry, the dairy industry. And then, you know, there's chicks, male chicks thrown into bins or thrown into grinders alive to be ground up alive because male chicks are no use to the egg industry. Even mom and pop farms receive chicks from these productions where they kill male chicks. They throw them into grinders alive and they keep the female chicks. Occasionally, one male chick will get through. Who knows what happens to them? I often see roosters on the side of the road in town. Some people don't have the heart to kill them, and so they just dump them off, you know, on the side of the road. So Annie Lennox is sort of apologizing for the fact that animal agriculture is destroying the planet. She doesn't want to make people feel uncomfortable. She's apologizing for the fact that she's mentioning that cruelty is deplorable. Why? Why are people apologizing for that? Seriously. Would we be apologizing for this if this was about a human rights issue? You know, would we be apologizing for saying, well, children are taken from their mothers and they're enslaved and they work all their life, they're tortured, and then at the end, when they're not productive, they're murdered? Would we be apologizing for talking about that? I would hope not. And yet we seem to think it's just okay to do that about sentient beings who happen to be a different species. But they're sentient, they feel pain just like we do, they love life, and they do not want to die, they love their young. It doesn't matter if they're like us, they don't have to be like us. They don't have to be like us to deserve our moral concern, our care, and to be not interfered with, to be left alone. They deserve the right not to be used as a thing. I look forward to the day when people stop apologizing and, diminishing. Such an important, this is the rights issue of our time. Veganism. And there's this saying by as Victor Hugo, this is an idea whose time has come. Veganism is an ethical position whose time has come, and it's time for us to get on board, to stop making excuses, to stop running through the A to Z, all the reasons why we shouldn't be vegan. Indigenous tribes, Inuits, what about plants, yada, 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 yada. I mean, if I had $1 for every excuse in the last 16 years, I'd be doing okay. It is a very, very important issue, veganism. It is not a plant-based diet. It's not about the environment, although it's not like veganism is an ethical position that rejects using animals. Ancillary benefits are the environment and health. But we need to stop thinking of it as some sort of diet or some sort of personal choice. It ceases to be a personal choice when you kill 1 to 3 trillion land and aquatic animals every year and you get somebody else to do it for you. It ceases to be a personal choice when it's destroying the oceans, and it's one of the major contributors to the climate crisis. And according to that study, the largest study to date, 119 countries, 40,000 farms, from farm to fork, 90% of all we eat. What was the conclusion to that study? It was that a vegan diet, a diet free of dairy, eggs, fish, meat, etc., is the single biggest action one can take. And the amazing amount of land that would be left, literally major continents of land would be left if we stopped animal agriculture. And animal agriculture is destroying the rainforest at 5.2 acres a minute. 5.2 acres a minute, because we're eating animal products. 5.2 acres a minute. That is the major destroyer of the Amazon rainforest, animal agriculture. And now the Amazon rainforest is emitting carbon dioxide instead of absorbing it because of that. And eventually, it's going to be a dried out desert eventually. That's what we're doing. We're doing that because we consume animal products. Not just meat. Watch Seaspiracy and watch Cowspiracy. Both really important documentaries. So anyway, I'm just trying to think what else she said there. And by the way, Annie Lennox, as much as I love her, she said, really, I didn't see her say anything about the genocide that's been happening in Yemen since 2014. She's been talking about all these other issues, but she didn't talk about the genocide in Yemen. 1 child was dying every 10 minutes from famine and disease because of the US-backed Saudi genocide that was happening in Yemen. And I have to say, the only conclusion I came to, which is sort of what I've come to about a lot of people that never mention that, and of course corporate media that never mentioned that, was because it was Obama who started that, who backed it. And so it's once again propping up the Democratic Party and protecting the Democratic Party. And Annie Lennox talks about the children, but she didn't mention that, and that's been going on since 2014. The moral compartmentalization and not wanting to be unpopular, that is really, really one of the major problems in the world today as far as public figures go. And also, even on the left and the right, people just turn away from anything that's inconvenient if they really stan a particular celebrity or a particular political figure. They just pretend these things are not happening. And the same goes with celebrities who are afraid of being unpopular, and so they don't say what's going on, the elephant in the room, the genocide in Yemen of children. 68,000 plus or something children have died in that genocide, an intentional genocide, which the US has been supporting since then. So anyway, it's very difficult to watch this kind of thing. It's very difficult to watch people that you might like that seem so kind and everything, which Annie Lennox seems to be. So kind. I've even seen her in concert many, many years ago when she was in the Eurythmics. That's how long ago that was. And I like her, but I don't like this. And I sort of feel like she should know about veganism already, for goodness sake. But look at Paul McCartney. He's still pushing vegetarianism. I mean, really and truly, like, what are they doing? There's so much more veganism around now, people being vegan and stuff. They must intentionally be, it's just inconvenient. You know, it's just like they feel like it's inconvenient in some way, so maybe it's easier for them to get vegetarian meals at a restaurant. Who knows? Maybe they like cake, and yet you can have fantastic vegan cake, fantastic vegan desserts, fantastic vegan food, period. I don't see, I don't see the obstacle there. It's easy, It's easy to be vegan now more than ever. So I don't know what all this vegetarianism stuff is about. But she was right, almost, about the tremendous impact animal agriculture has on the planet. Just off on the percentage, but she was pretty much right. Here's Rooney. Oh. With his bird be safe collar on. No, we don't like to dress up our cats. And they're refugees of domestication. Anyway, please check out my vegan resource, howtogovegan.org, please. And also watch the documentaries, Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy, and What the Health. And remember that when you see people talking about and apologizing about bringing up issues like this, just remember what I've said. It's very speciesist to be apologizing for bringing up, issues of violence and issues of justice. It's very speciesist. It's playing into people's already deeply held speciesist beliefs by apologizing for it. We need to take it as seriously, what we're doing to non-human animals, as what we're doing to human animals. That's why I want the left to get on board with veganism and start talking about it in a way that is real and not apologetic and not about the environment or health or whatever or personal choices and all that kind of namby-pamby. The personal choice thing is namby-pamby. Of course, environmental issues are very important, but you know what I'm saying. To keep to the specifics of it being an ethical position and recognizing non-human animals. Let's have fresh eyes when we think about. Let's have fresh eyes when we think about non-human animals. Let's put aside all our preconceived ideas about them. Just put it all aside, what we think about them, how we feel about them, and look at it as if we've never had any thoughts about it before. Look with fresh eyes at it and think about it. Think about these animals as real beings, real sentient beings just like us that love life. They just happen to be another species. And look into what we're doing to them. Read What's Wrong with Vegetarianism by UVE Archives, but you can find it on my How to Go Vegan podcast. So please, when you're driving around, maybe listen to that podcast. Listen to it on, if you're taking a walk. And get back to me. Tell me what you think. Tell me if there's something I could put on there that could improve it. I haven't done anything on it for a few years. I've had it out there since 2016. But I'd like to hear your thoughts. And if anybody is interested in having a discussion or maybe interested in having a live stream where you can ask questions and talk about things, please put it in the comments section too. So thanks so much for watching. My name's Trish Roberts. You're watching Faint Signals from Vegan. Till next time. Bye for now.